Hey guys, this is Tommy from the Ravens Creek Study, and we are looking at the essential doctrines of the faith. If we were to give a Christianity 101 course, what would be the things that we're looking at, and what is it that we need to understand about these essential doctrines? We have come to the fall. The fall is, of course, Genesis chapter 3. We've been looking at, if we were to kind of trace what we're doing here in theology, through the Bible, we would see in the beginning God. Well, okay, so what do we mean when we say God? And that would be kind of our understanding of what we've been going through for the last many videos. And then we see God as creator, and we talked a little bit about the creation, and we're going to talk more about the creation later, but we talked a little bit in the last video about man, because man is the last thing that God creates. Now we've come to Genesis chapter 3, and we look at when sin enters the world. So the first thing, the most fundamental thing that I think that I can say here, the fall is more than the fall of humanity. It's not like humanity is now depraved because of Adam's sin. It's not like that's the only thing that we can talk about. All of creation has come into a fallen state. It's a cosmic fall. And therefore, the entirety of creation is moaning and groaning, waiting for the sons of God to be revealed. There's a big implication with this. When we move from the fall being specifically a humanity thing to the fall being all of creation thing, suddenly we start to see, okay, so there must be an interconnection here. If Adam's sin causes for the whole creation to fall, then there must be some connection between humanity and the creation. So we can reverse that. And we do see evidence for this in the Bible, by the way. It's not like I'm just saying this because it's an assertion. We do find evidence for this. Our righteousness, the way that we treat the land, and our relationship with God will actually affect the creation positively. Whereas the fall caused for all of creation to go into the fallen state, our righteousness can affect the creation positively. We see humanity is kind of the mediators of heaven and earth. They were told to rule over the creation. We're flesh and blood, and so we're chthonic or tangible, right? We're physical. But yet we have relationship with God, so there's a spiritual aspect to humanity. So we're therefore Empyrean as well. If you don't know these words, I'm trying to explain them to you, because not everybody knows what chthonic or Empyrean is. We're flesh and blood. We're physical. That would be the idea. But we're also spiritual, and therefore have a relationship with God. So we interact with the physical world around us, but we're also in relationship with God, and we are warring against the principalities and powers. So you can see that physicality plus spirituality coming together in humanity. It's through humanity that there is connection between the physical and the spiritual. The fall of humanity is the fall of creation. With the redemption of humanity is the redemption of creation. This is the whole moaning and groaning until the sons of God be revealed. Why? Why is it not the Son of God? Why is it the sons of God? Because the sons of God, this is the issue of adoption. You and I who are in Christ, when He is revealed from heaven, we shall be raised to life, raised into a resurrected state with Him. And when that takes place, when our resurrection comes forth, when the redemption of all of humanity takes place at the end of the age, with Jesus returning, that the Antichrist is destroyed and his armies are destroyed, it leads straightway to the redemption of creation. Now, the redemption of creation, by the way, let me hit on this in case you're wondering. The redemption of the nations and the redemption of creation does not necessitate the resurrection of those nations or of the creation. It's not until we come into Revelation 21 with the new heaven and new earth that is the resurrection. So just like we are now redeemed, but we're not raised unto newness of life, into a resurrected physical resurrection state, so too the nations, when they behold Christ, will be redeemed, but they won't be brought into a resurrection state. So That's kind of the division there. Okay, if you can follow that. Genesis 3. This is essentially where the fall is, right? When you go through what God tells the serpent, the woman, and the man, these are the consequences. Because you ate of the fruit, here's what's going to take place to you. Or the serpent, in this case, because you deceived. And that's essentially the judgment. It's not even that God comes and judges. He just says, okay, you're going to deal with these consequences. um, so the serpent is to crawl on his belly and eat dust all of his life. Now, when you think about it, Adam was made from the dust of the earth. Isn't that interesting? That the serpent's going to eat dust all of its life, and yet Adam was made from the dust of the earth. There's almost this parallel here that's taking place. Why is it that Satan always seems to go after humanity, whether they are saved or not? Because the serpent will always eat the dust of the earth. The seed of the woman, this is the next part of the judgment on the serpent. The seed of the woman is to crush his head. There's two seeds, the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. But unlike what you would think that God says there's the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman, and the seed of the woman will defeat and overcome and conquer the seed of the serpent. But that's not what God says. He says the seed of the woman will crush the serpent's head. So it's kind of interesting there. We can see these two seeds at work throughout the entirety of the book of the entirety of the Bible. But Genesis, it's really easy to see. You've got Cain and Abel. You've got the nations at Babel, and you've got Abram called out of a nation. You've got Ishmael and Isaac. You've got Esau and Jacob. You've got the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. Crushing the head of the serpent was not through Christ. I mean, we do see Colossians 2:15 that he has triumphed over the principalities and powers through the cross. But you've got these other verses that explain to us that there's a final enactment not through Christ, but through the seed of the woman, the plural seed of the woman, the those who are in Christ. That would be, I guess we would call it the church. Ephesians 3:8-12, and specifically verse 10, you see it mentioned that it's through the church that the manifest wisdom of God is displayed unto the principalities and powers. And that's how they're overcome. That's how they're conquered. Romans 16:20, Paul doesn't say that it's about to be that Jesus will crush the head of the serpent, but he points to the church in Romans and says, God is about to crush the serpent under your feet. Revelation 12:11. Somehow there's a relationship here. The overcoming of the saints is intimately wrapped up with the casting down of Satan from heaven, so that now he is destined only upon the earth. Which, by the way, is not fulfilled way back in history at the beginning of creation. This is something that takes place at the end of the age. It's an eschatological understanding. So Ephesians 3:8-10. I quoted verse 10, and that's specifically what I want to look at is verse 10, that through the church there would be the manifest wisdom of God displayed unto the principalities and powers. Through the church, a demonstration is made to the principalities and powers of the manifest wisdom of God. What is the manifest wisdom of God? If we're supposed to demonstrate it, what is it that we're demonstrating? The wisdom of God, you can almost use the word value system or the term value system instead of wisdom. The wisdom of God is everything the seed of the woman is supposed to be. It is what heaven is. It's the culture of heaven. It is what God is. When you strip God down and look at his fundamental core of who he is, the attributes that God is, that is what the wisdom of God is. That which God values, we value. That which God does, we do. That which God requires, we require. That's what it means to manifest the wisdom of God. If God is interested in reconciliation, then we are ministers of reconciliation. I mean, this is how it works. You can see the judgment of the woman, that she's to be under her husband. That's the curse. And she'll have pain in childbearing. She'll have a desire of the man, but he shall rule over her. Now, I belabor that point for a reason. She shall be under her husband is part of the curse. In Christ, we are set free from the curse. I know that there are a few verses, specifically the ones that are used would be Ephesians 5 or 1 Peter 3, where it talks about how the woman is under the man. But just because the English version says that doesn't mean the Greek says that. That would be my first point. Look the Greek up and figure out, well, what does the Greek say? In Ephesians 3 or Ephesians 5, in Ephesians 5, there is no Greek verb that's used to say that the woman is under or subject to the husband. There's no Greek verb there. It's just wives to your husband. That's all it says. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all of it, but just know there are only a handful of verses, and when you really start to do some digging and try to search it out, you find that these verses that are used to say that women are under the husband, even according to the New Testament, it's not really true. Even saying women should not be in leadership. Well, you've got Phoebe in Romans 16. She's known among the apostles. That kind of wording suggests she herself is an apostle. Or maybe it's not Phoebe. Phoebe's the deaconess. If you go to Romans 16 and you see Phoebe, the Greek word there is deaconess. You would translate it as deaconess. She was a leader in the church. And there was another woman, I don't remember. I think it's Junia. Junia in Romans 16 is known well among the apostles. That wording would suggest she is herself an apostle. So, whereas there was union between the man and woman in the Garden of Eden, now there's hierarchy. The New Testament speaks of reconciliation, and therefore this kind of, quote, headship in marriage is no longer in effect, and this is what I'm trying to get at. When we look at a woman, a fundamental woman, oftentimes when you look at a little girl, she has dreams and aspirations of being a princess. There's something in the heart of every woman that desires to be a princess. This requires character and moral grit, because a princess isn't just a princess because she's born underneath the king, because she was born of royal blood. That's not what makes you a princess. There's a whole lifestyle, a way of etiquette, a way of moral character and moral grit that defines the princess. And in the same way, her husband, in order for her to one day become queen, her husband needs to be more than just a male. He needs to be a prince. And he needs to know how to treat a woman. That's the whole mindset, that's the whole view, right? So this might explain why teenage girls make lists for themselves of what they expect in their boyfriend/future husband. It might also explain why some teenage girls find it difficult for satisfaction in life without a man. Just to try to pinpoint something there. So God's judgment of the man, the consequences for the man. The ground shall be cursed for his sake, and by the sweat of his brow he shall eat, and unto the dust he shall return. From dust he was made, to dust he returns. Now, notice something here. There's a pattern here now. Now we can see it. It's kind of a little more explicit. From the ground Adam was made, now he's enslaved to the ground. From the man, the woman was made, and now she is enslaved to the man. You see how this kind of works? Maybe this is why some men find satisfaction in their work. But this kind of satisfaction, whether it's for the man who finds satisfaction in their work or for the woman who finds satisfaction in the man that they have, that kind of satisfaction is dubious. Because true satisfaction is found in union with one another, that the man and the woman are one flesh, and that together they are serving and protecting from the rest of God. And it's not about working at all. So, in Genesis 3, this is the first mention of labor. Up to this point, it has all been by God's strength and by God's rest that humanity operated. Here with the curse, law is introduced. What do I mean by law? Righteousness apart from faith and salvation by grace stem from the mindset of work instead of rest. Law is that mindset that your works is what makes you righteous. That if you do these things, you will be righteous. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. It's about grace. It's about faith. It's about, this is salvation 101, right? So law is not simply the Sinai Pact. When we think of Paul speaking down against the law, especially in the book of Galatians, but it's really scattered throughout all of his epistles. It's not that he's saying Sinai is no longer of any significance, or that Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy are no longer of any significance. It's not that he's saying the letters on stone are obliterated and they're obsolete. What Paul is getting at is that there is a system of righteousness that through your own work, through your own efforts, through your own ability, because you have the audacity to think that you can memorize the law and then use it as a kind of a manual for how you should live, because you have that audacity, you suddenly start to think, well, I can be righteous. Righteousness doesn't come that way. It comes through faith. Abraham had faith, and it was accredited to him as righteousness. That's what the Bible teaches from the beginning. And so it's with the fall that law is introduced. This is actually my last slide for the fall. Next, we're going to be looking at the advent of Christ, and hopefully you'll enjoy that one. What's the significance of when Jesus first came? So we can look at the fall and the fallenness of humanity, the fallenness of the creation. Well, then what is the significance when Jesus comes on the scene? What's the significance here within that context? So thanks for listening, and I'll see you later. Grace and peace to you in Christ.